So today I'm sitting with Holly, and Holly is someone who has taken the clarity course and has done some special kinds of things about finding her voice, finding a new level of freedom, and her foundation for what's next. So we're just going to have a conversation about those kinds of things, finding confidence and courage, and using your voice once you find it. So welcome, Holly.
Thank you. Nice to be here. I really appreciate the work that you've put into and the things that you've brought forward. And I don't want to skip ahead, but I've benefited.
Awesome. We'd love to hear that. But I know that you are coming from a background that did not allow you to have your own opinions.
Yeah. And I was raised in the Mormon church, commonly known as Mormons or LDS church, and in my own home too. There's lots of different flavors of Mormon, and so you have to, the family culture also with the broader context of Mormonism. And it was very obedience, and there's just one right way, and this is the only way you can do it, and you try again until you do it exactly that way.
But the thing that's interesting is for you to break away from that faith. Like, I was raised Catholic, and my parents are very, very Catholic. They gave us the freedom to make our own way. And, like if we followed what they said, then that would be doctrine. And if we examined it and found our own way, then it would be our faith. You didn't have that freedom. Tell me about, what is the impact of having a different opinion?
The impact of having a different opinion is that my family is loving people, and they love the best that they know how to do, but that's all within the framework of the religion. So having my own stepping away and my own mind about how I feel about the Mormon faith has meant that my relationships have shifted, and I've given myself permission to not participate in less healthy aspects of those relationships.
What I want to know is, does your family or your friends, your family, your community members, do they respect the choice? Do they give you the freedom to choose for yourself? Like,
No.
What is that impact? Like in the
No.
day-to-day living?
In the day-to-day living, we're very isolated. There is an impetus in Mormonism to be missionary-minded and to go find the one that has strayed from the 90 and 9. And the biggest impact I have on my neighbors is when they see me in the grocery store and they can cross missionary moment off their to-do list. And they'll say, "Oh, I've missed you so much, and I'm so happy to see you." And I'm thinking, you live 2 doors away from me, and we haven't spoken in a year. But here you are making it so I can't get my oranges. And I have to have grace with that because it's the best they know how to do.
It's the way they were raised.
But I also don't like being the check mark on a to-do list, because really that's what it is. It's not about me or a relationship with me. It's about the broader context of the religion and the culture.
So in the course, this is like people like me, like you. They used to be people like you,
Yes.
and now people like you are different, and they want you to come back and be the way you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never quite understood that aspect of being one, meaning I always wanted deeper connections with people, but there is a safe space in which you can have a relationship, and once you stray outside of that safe space, you can't really share authentically, because there's the big capital T truth, and if you have an opinion or a question that's different than that, so you have the tired conversation over and over again, very superficial. And I always wanted to have relationships that went deeper. So understanding the people like me concept, realizing, oh, I never was people like them, and I was trying to force myself to be people like them.
It's a survival
And
mechanism.
now I don't have to be people like them. I can be people like me and find other people like me.
Perfect. It's funny. Like, it's the game. Like there's the game of life, and there are the rules to the game of life.
Yeah.
And they're very strict in their rules. My life rules are very flexible. It's like wide tent, welcome everybody, kind of a thing. But these are very, rigid rules.
And everybody's welcome so long as you then conform to those rules, which doesn't really mean everybody's welcome.
Well, it sounds like, this is a great game to win, but, if you don't follow the rules with the consequences.
Yes.
So it leaves a survival style.
Yes, and it very much is a survival style. And it's lonely in a crowd. it's lonely and having very little connection and starving for it, and then wondering, why am I unlovable? What is wrong here with me that makes it so I can't fit all the way into the bed?
Because you're the one who's different, it must be wrong with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And because we don't talk about it, because the relationships are superficial, there's no opportunity to learn. And there probably are other people that feel exactly that same way, so isolated in the crowd. But you can't discover that because it's outside of the box.
You didn't come to the clarity course and decide, oh my God, I'm not as Mormon as they want me to be.
Oh, no,
You
I
were on
left.
this path before.
Yes.
Talk to me about how you started coming to find your voice, have the courage to use your voice. Like, what was that like for you in the beginning?
Terrifying. I didn't sleep for probably 3 years. Panic attacks nightly, nightmares. I was sure that I was sending my whole family to a fate worse than hell. And as the mom, and you don't want to do that for your kids, and you safeguard their safety and the physical and the spiritual. And in a religious context, the safety is not just right now while we're alive, it's what happens next, and that's my job. And afterlife is a huge long time to get that wrong. So it was terrifying. And you have to do it alone because, like I said, you can't go talk to your community about it because it would be worse. The shunning and the fear and the things that would happen would be worse. And then you also get called in by the leadership for
restraint.
Yeah. And I did all of my research and all of my deconstruction of the faith from inside approved documents of the faith.
So you were doing a line item kind of a look at who am I compared to this? Like, this is what I want to get. I don't want to push too hard, right? Find your comfort zone, but like, what are examples of rules you wanted to break? What are examples of how you dug in and found courage?
I didn't want to break any rules, and that was the thing. Because if this is salvation, I was convinced that this was salvation. So, like I said, I stayed all within the LDS canonized literature that they put out because you don't want to go to anti-Mormon literature. But as I studied, I wanted to know that it was true. In Mormonism, you are told that you can know with 100% certainty of the truth of things. And so I studied and I looked, and the more I looked, the more I realized what was taught to me in church. And I completed seminary. I took 4 years of seminary. I did a Mormon mission. I was in leadership positions my whole adult. I was primary president and women's president, Relief Society presidency. So I did a lot of those kinds of things. But once I started learning what was actually taught, even 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, the more you go back in time, the bigger the differences and the discrepancies are until this thing cannot be true and this thing also be true. They don't exist in the same space together. And you're taught from the time you're a child, the prophet cannot err, the prophet cannot lead you astray, and God will let you know. And so if this prophet is saying this thing and this prophet is 180 degrees different, and it's on basic things like tithing, and on what the word of wisdom is. The word of wisdom is the law of health that Mormons have about what you can eat and what you can't eat. Most people are familiar with the drinking and the coffee, and that has been interpreted and reinterpreted over time to mean very different things. When it first was given, it meant literally the temperature of the beverage. It did not mean coffee and tea. It included, and it included soup. It included soup, and you can find in the record of what medical ideas were of the time when Joseph Smith, the founding leader of Mormonism, came out with the prophecy. And it was widely medically thought that hot liquids was bad for you, and that got included in. And then you can also study the stories around when the revelation was given, and there was a squabble between his wife and his friends, and the squabble came to a head when he told, because the men were spitting tobacco chew on the ground and his wife had to clean it up. And so the resolution to keep the peace was Joseph Smith coming out with the word of wisdom, which took tea and coffee away from the women and tobacco away from the men.
Okay.
And so I ended
Are men
up.
allowed to do coffee and tea?
No one's allowed to do either. But of the time and in the culture, women had tea and coffee, men had tobacco. So culturally, in that context.
So what it sounds like to me is that because Hollie is masterful at research, and you'll find out about that. She's starting a podcast, so be on the lookout for it.
Soon.
But you love research.
I do.
And it sounds like because of your curiosity, your critical thinking, and your research is
Yeah.
what had your faith fall apart.
Yes, and I did it all within the accepted Mormon literature. It's just the stuff that they don't use anymore, or they'll have a quote and the ellipses in the quote take the context away or change the meaning completely. And that's what I love to do. Just beside Mormonism, I love to take something and put it into context of how it actually happened. Because we were talking earlier about history being written by the victors, and you can have a very different meaning of this historical story that you think you know, but when you actually take it and put it in the proper context, it changes completely.
It does. And again, it was you had the identity that you were a Mormon.
Yeah, I was Mormon, and this was
You
right.
still are considered Mormon.
No, I have officially gone through the legal process to remove my name and my membership. Because I didn't want to be identified.
They took away her Costco card.
Yeah, I don't have it anymore. And I don't want to be identified as Mormon or ex-Mormon. I want to be Hollie.
Perfect.
And that
Identifying as yourself.
yes, I am me, and I want to center myself and my ideas and my thoughts, and I don't want the undue influence of living to this or that perception, because I want to live in now and I want to grow forward.
But it's interesting. One of the things in the clarity course, we're talking about the things that we identify as. Because we don't always think about it, but like I am a woman. Yes, that is a true biologic function of my anatomy or whatever, and I identify as a woman. But there are plenty of female bodies that don't.
Yeah.
But what are the things that we identify? And religion is a very strong one for a lot of people.
And I found through the course of Mormonism and then coming through the clarity course, I had the opportunity, but I've learned that most of my life I have identified as what I am doing, not who I am. So I was a student, I was a mother, I was a this or a that, but that's my function or my current role, but it's not who I am.
Role-based, relationship-based.
Yeah, and so going inside and figuring out what my values are and what's really important to me and what actually gives me joy and lights me up and makes the day-to-day fun. Even if it's a mundane day, you can still have fun. And finding those little things are super significant.
They're essential. It's the foundation for making decisions in our lives. Like there was a time when tithing was normal. Now there's a time when I'm choosing where I'm giving my extra income and stuff, or where I'm participating in a generous way. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's a foundation of choice.
And I feel better about it because I understand all the metrics behind the why of the choices that I'm making. Whereas before it was a logical thought stop process of, because God trumped everything, right? So you'd eventually get to a point of, well, I don't understand this and I don't really agree with this, but God said. And that was the end of the conversation, both in here and out.
It's interesting, a lot of the women who've gone through the course will come back and say, I still struggled to make the decision, but once I make the decision, I don't double guess myself.
Yeah.
And for me, that was, hugely, validating, but, at the same time, it was just such a profound piece of what I wanted people to get.
Yeah. And it is, and for me, the experience allowed me to step into a new iteration of myself. And not that the old me was bad or broken. She did the very best she knew how. But sometimes you have to let go of something good or functional for something better. And for me, it was the pendulum of vulnerability. The person who I became to grow up in that system had to protect me.
Absolutely.
Had to protect the tender parts of me.
She brought you here.
But she brought me here, and she has handed the keys off to someone new and told me it's time to open up what's inside and to be vulnerable and to be authentic and that I'm strong enough to bear whatever the opinions are.
Yeah, I think of it as that protective little piece that wants to make sure that you're not get risky and stuff. And as a grown, mature person, I can look back and say, yes, thank you for calling that to my attention, but I have more information to add to that. So, come under my wing and we'll be okay together.
And it's helpful, but to a certain point it becomes stunting. Like when you learn how to have your balance on a bike, you don't keep the training wheels because they're in your way. And that's what I feel has happened, is I have taken off a set of training wheels. And I think that's probably going to be an ongoing process because I want to grow and I want to change and I want to move in different areas and I want to continue shedding training wheels as I go.
Do you feel like the clarity course gave you the ability to continue the process of growing and taking off the wheels?
Yes, and I think the biggest thing for me is the community that's been created. I can't understate what it does to go into a room with women who are ready to both give and receive. And I had to show up ready to receive. I had to show up open, which was very challenging and not my normal.
Not just for you. It's not a usual thing for, I think, women in general. It's an uncomfortable
You go
thing
in
to
very
receive.
guarded.
And a question of deserving as well. You know, it's like, why are you giving to me? Here, I'll give you something back. You know, like that.
Well, it's transactional, and it was nice to go in and feel seen, but really seen, things that sometimes I hope for or aspire to, and the women in the course, oh, you're this, and it turns out I was already where I thought that I was struggling to be, and it's interesting to have that validation. But it's not about the external validation, it's about corroborating what's already there inside and creating a network of women who will support you in being that. And not the crab in the bucket that's going to say, no, get back in your place. And
The thing that's really key for me in the course is these women will only ever know you as who you tell them that you are.
yeah,
And there's a lot of power in that. Because, you know, if this is who I am, this is how I want to be related to, this is my truth. It's hard to do that with people who know who you've been before, what you settled for before, what you made excuses for before, you know,
what I accepted before. I was
what you're
talking,
resigned about.
yeah, I talked to my husband last night. He said, it'll be interesting to see because sometimes you can go to someplace new and reinvent yourself as someone new, and then you come back and fall back into the same rut. And I don't believe that to be the case because there's a difference between pretending to ascend and actually making an energetic shift.
Yes. We were not inventing ourselves newly, we were uncovering
What was already there and accepting what's already there and bringing it to the forefront rather than hiding it and apologizing for it or whatever we do to cover those things up. It's not putting on a new hat. It's this is my head and it's fantastic.
Do you feel courageous? Do you feel natural? What do you feel?
Free. I feel brave. I feel confident, but natural. And it's a quiet landing. It's a quiet, like, oh, I can breathe. I have space to breathe. I have space to speak my mind. And I have the space to accept and that this is real and that these things that you put inside yourself isn't a childish dream that needs to be put away as you grow up. No, that can be something that you hold on to and then bring into reality.
It's interesting because a lot of people who have looked at this work with me have thought, you know, it's like I would love to do that, but it feels like my whole world would fall apart if I opened Pandora's box. And so, you know, like as much as I want to do it, I'm not going to do it, maybe later and whatnot. But I just heard you say that doing that had you feel free.
And not to be scary, your world is going to change. But growth does that. And having the permission, why would you walk home when you can fly?
That's a beautiful way to put it.
And we've been walking around. Like, we went and they taught us how to fly and then we all walked home. No, we can fly.
Did it feel gentle?
Yes. That doesn't mean it wasn't without, but it wasn't pain. It wasn't regret. It wasn't recrimination. It was a release. But it's like a farewell.
It's intense. It can be intense.
It's like a farewell. When you say goodbye to someone, especially when it's a gentle release, like my father passed away, he had been ill, and it was a good release for him to go. It felt like a relief, but it was still farewell. It was still a sad. When my child goes off to college, you are excited for the growth and the wonderful things that's going to happen, but the child is still leaving, and so it's that. But it was gentler than that even. And that's the closest thing I can think of to bring it into those spaces. and it's work, and you give the permission to, yes, you guide it, you facilitate it, but it's my work and it's my growth, and it's not forced by an external locust. There are some things you said to me because I was having a rough day, and I could feel it coming. I could feel things shifting, and you said, until you identify it, it's going to kind of be there, and that sat with me. And then when I knew, oh, this is a farewell, I'm saying goodbye to a version of myself that I'm grateful to have had, but I'm equally grateful to move on. And once I identified it as a farewell, it just went, and all the
On the wind.
yeah, and all of that that was uncomfortable went away. And I was like, oh,
The significance was gone.
yeah, and then it felt gentle, and then it felt like a landing and coming home to who I've always been. There's that coming home to a place I've never been before, John Denver.
Yep.
And that's what it feels like. It's just, and it's just as gentle as that song too. Coming home to a place I've never been before. It's just, it's home. It's new.
If you had to give advice to a woman out there who is thinking about taking on something like this, who is going through feeling constricted, restricted, afraid to find her voice and use it, what advice would you give to that woman?
To trust herself, that she's enough, that she's always been enough, and whatever the voice is that's inside or outside telling you that you need to be something else, that's false.
It's somebody else's voice.
And even if you adopted it as your own, it's still false. And that you are enough, and you can trust yourself, and you are strong enough to handle what comes. You can heal your broken pieces. They're probably not broken. And you can recognize, and it doesn't make you prideful or bad or puffed up. It makes you beautifully you. No one else is you. No one else can be me.
No one else can expert on you.
Yeah, and if I'm constantly telling myself who I am and who I should or should not be, I'm not giving myself the space and the freedom to be me because I'm not trusting me. But I am enough right here, how I show up. I might have to apologize. I might get it wrong, and I can bear that. But I'm going to get more right than wrong. And in my opinion, there really is no wrong. There's learning.
So if I'm going to boil that down into a couple of quick sentences.
I like words.
I love that too. Well, you know, it takes a lot of different words for people to get it in their own way.
It's a trauma response too. It's a listen to me. I have something to say.
You definitely do, Holly, and I can't wait for your podcast. The thing that I'm really hearing is you're not broken, you're misaligned, and you're strong enough, you're smart enough, trust yourself, you got this.
And doggone it, people like you.
They do. They like you. I like you. Thank you, Holly.